Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Boozer here. So in this video, I wanted to make my own reaction video to the reaction video of the reaction video of the reaction video to Macchan actually quitting the game. So if you guys don't know, Macchan is one of the most prominent PvP content creators for Raid Shadow Legends. Very strong player, top 20 arena player, has been around for a long time, focuses on PvP endgame content, and then he's calling it quits. So I find there's some interesting talking points here, and then we're actually following the other Ash here, Coldbrew, and Skratch, along with their reaction videos as well, and how they react to Macchan's quitting of the game. So I feel like I can provide a little bit of a different outlook on everything, considering that I'm totally free to play. I play at an end game level, not as high as obviously Macchan, who has an insane account. I'm going to provide a link in the top corner here, but basically I did a kind of like a survey of everybody's 3 or 4 year recap this year, and Macchan was by far the biggest spending player in the game in terms of overall dungeons grinded, overall shards pulled, even more than all these other content creators, which was actually very insane because Ash, Coldbrew, Skratch, they have spent a ton of money in this game. They're heavily invested. They're full-time content creators. They're obviously very knowledgeable, and they're long time players. But me, I'm free to play. I play at near end game levels as these guys, with only a fraction of the gear and no dollars spent. So I think I can provide a different but still relevant outlook and opinion on a very prominent high spending player leaving the game, and whether those issues are actually relevant to like the free to plays or the masses and so forth. And obviously there's a lot of psychology behind a lot of this, because just the nature of this gacha game, it's going to definitely have a lot of psychological effects, and I think it is applicable to a lot of people. So we'll dive into it here. We'll keep it kind of casual. It's kind of like a meme-ish video. I'm not going to do a lot of these reaction videos, but I thought it was fun idea to jump on it. So let's get right to it.
I want to talk about why I decided to take a break from the game. I'm just going to give you my very honest opinion. The biggest reason is I kind of don't want to spend anymore.
That's a very valid reason. So for a player that spends so much as Macchan, he's actually he made a video before in the past where he said that his account was worth $20,000, and the comment section just blew up saying, are you joking? Like, what are you saying? You're easily like 200,000 into the game. And I'm not even joking or exaggerating. I think Macchan is probably 6 digits into the game. And based on what he's saying in this video, it's pretty much confirmed that he would be at least 6 digits into this game. So let's keep going.
Just to be honest, right? As you guys probably know, if you watch my old content, I was a huge spender. I was a huge spender, and I think
like
34
the
maximum
million
I have spent in a month was like $2,000. That was.
So he's saying he's spending about $2,000 a month. So that's about 24,000 a year. So if he's been playing the game for 4 years, we can extrapolate to about $100,000. Honestly, based on, like I said, the spreadsheet from his 4-year recap, just the data from his 4-year recap, 6 digits would be probably about right for someone of Macchan's play level here.
Crazy. It's not like
so you heard him. He was a big spender. The maximum he spent was around $2,000 in a month. Now,
probably
yes, he was a big spender, one of the biggest spenders on YouTube.
The funny thing is, like, the psychology of it is that no one would really, even if you're a big spender, no one would actively say, hey, I spent $2,000 in a game. There is some levels of shyness or shamefulness of spending money. It's just the nature of people. So I wouldn't be surprised if the number was much higher than 2,000. Based on just human nature. So there's no no judging, no anything like that. You can do whatever you want with your money, but I would say that the number is actually much higher than 2,000.
That we know anyway. He used to be, at least before, he used to be at the top of Platinum Arena 2-3 years ago. And you know what? 2 years ago, the game was different. 2 years ago, a lot of people were able to challenge the whales and krakens and beat them without a problem and feel like it's not a big disadvantage. You know why? Because we didn't have so many power creep mechanics.
That's a very good point from Skratch. Basically, the game was much simpler back in the day, so you actually I would say you would realize more gains by spending money. So nowadays, when you spend money, you're actually not realizing much gains because the champions that are at the top, if you don't have them, the gap is so large that you cannot outspend on your existing champions without those champions. For example, Marichka Taras, if you don't have them, you can spend way more money on lower tier champions, but you would never outpower them.
Right now we have a
yeah, basically Skratch is right with this one because back when we very first started playing the game, where the whales would compete was basically the arena in terms of fighting each other, and everybody had pretty much the same champions. The only differential between them was gear, and gear pretty much only provided a little bit of difference here and there. Speed was king way back then, so the faster champion would do the turn meter boost. You would speed tune your team. There were no blessings to mess things up. There was no stone skin says and all of that.
So here is a good point here, because if you're basically in an arena, when you're focused on one stat area, basically speed, you don't have to divvy up all the money into other areas. So nowadays in this game, there's so many areas where you can spend money and it would have lesser of effect, right? It wouldn't have as strong of an impact as just being the fastest. So now you have to have, like, obviously RNG, you're going to have better champions, you're going to have to deal with different gear sets. So there's a lot of different ways to split up the money that you spend, basically making you spend more money.
Blessings and empowerments really brought in a tremendous power creep from even the spenders, and differentiate the big spenders with the medium spenders, and the Krakens really ate up all the whales. All right, so the Krakens are the ones that spend
awakening, empowering,
crazy amounts every week.
I can't even remember. I can't remember them all because there's so many. Okay, like there are 1,000 of them now. 2 years ago, we had champions gear. Yes, you still needed to have the meta champions. You still needed to have some decent gear in order to challenge most of the players. But you know what? I used to get screenshots from a lot of people. Skratch, I just beat your defense. Haha, I'm a free-to-play player. Or Skratch, I beat this guy's defense. Or me, I beat this guy who spent 10 times more than I did. You know, and it was a nice feeling to know that you were able to play the game at that level. Well, that's not the case anymore, of course. And right now, if you want to be the top dog in Raid Shadow Legends, and let me just make a different point before I'm going to give you a couple of other ideas in here. Nobody gives a damn if you are the top dog in Raid Shadow Legends.
I really like the way Skratch was so blunt here. It's true. Like, if no one really gives a damn about your personal progression outside of maybe like 100 people in the whole game, where they are chasing you to be the top dog. It's always interesting to see somebody do something creative and outsmart people with whatever they have. I think that's an interesting way to look at, like, the top dog. If the top dog will use some very interesting strategies, and that does happen very often, and you know, they outsmart or outplay other people, that's, you know, that's well played, right? We want to see that. But if you just want to watch some guy like outspend everyone, it's kind of, you know, no one really cares, right? I don't know. He makes a good point here. I like that.
Not even Platinum do. They're not even capable to make a leaderboard for Platinum Arena Reset. It takes them 5 freaking minutes to create a leaderboard for Platinum Arena Reset to be added to the game every Monday morning. But you know what? Nobody gives a damn. And if Platinum doesn't give a damn, why should somebody else give a damn? And you know what? There's always going to be a bigger dog than you. No matter what.
That's what I've always said with PvP. The fighting for that #1 spot, especially if you do it every week after you get your 1 trophy, I don't understand what the point is to continue on and on and on.
Yeah,
maybe get the most amount of trophies. That's the biggest whale that is trying to do. I think Bobby is the one that is trying to do this right now. But
what you're doing, there's always a bigger dog. It's not necessarily that Bobby's this is the law of life. There's always the next predator, the apex predator. It's just that even if you spend more money than somebody in the game, that person might have much better RNG than you. And you know what? He's the top dog now. He has something that you don't have, and he's better than what you have. So he's the top dog. And then the next top dog comes in, and it goes on like this to the infinite. It's a rat race that will never end. And I gotta say it, I've been caught in this rat race as well, you know, and the sooner you understand this, the better for your own well-being, the better for your wallet as well, you know. And
that's a really good point, because you're basically playing an infinite game against yourself. You're basically playing like a psychological game against yourself, where you feel like you need to catch up to other people, where you have this internal sense of accomplishment that you have to achieve. It's a very interesting game. Obviously it's a great business model for Plarium, but they're tapping into certain parts of like human nature and psychology that really it's obviously like a form of addiction. And addiction is a form of illness. So some people don't even realize that they're addicted to spending, in this way, and even even if they realize it, they justify it in every other way. So it's actually something that is, I would say, an illness for sure. Just a quick story here. Basically, like some of you might remember that Plarium made a mistake, and then they allowed everyone to see how much money they spent in the game from I forgot where, but it was at the top of your load-in screen or something. But it showed how much money you spent. And I actually know a couple people that basically quit the game when they saw how much money they spent, because it was a shock to them, and then they realized that, hey, this is a problem. And then the way of them stopping that problem was basically quitting cold turkey, deleting the account, or whatever. So it's it's one way that this game really sucks us in, right? So and it's really hard for people to have spent to stop spending. That's the thing too. A lot of people, when they spend a lot of money in this game, they can never go free to play, because the way you play in this game as a spender, you can never play properly as a free to play player. I've seen this time and time again where big spenders, they stop spending because they realize they can't spend anymore, or they just don't want to spend anymore. They try to go free to play, and it's literally impossible for them to play at the same level. You don't gain silver as quickly, you spend silver way too quickly, you farm way too much, you don't manage your resources properly, and you just don't have the flexibility that you used to have when you had money or when you were spending money. So it's, yeah, and I see a lot of people quit this way. So the mentality is totally different.
And I do want to point out a couple of things which we're going to discuss down in the video, but this is one of the main things that I want to point out. You don't need to be the top dog. You need to kind of like accept the level where you're playing, and accept that this mobile gaming industry is pay to win. You're never going to be number one if you're not spending money. Hell,
100%. So in this game is basically a mini game within yourself. So the best way to get enjoyment out of it, at least for me personally, is find something, a goal that you want to achieve, and then try to achieve it. Whether it be get Lydia, get Ramantu, finish Arbiter, do dungeon 20, get under a minute on this dungeon, build a team, make 100 million on a team, whatever. Or gear a champion, gear this champion the best you can be, have this champion, have 300 crit damage, or whatever goal that you can set in this game, try to achieve it, and you'll feel good after you achieve it. Sometimes the best feeling in this game is tackling the hardest content, and you know that it's going to be hard, but then completing it. It's not about having hard content, paying a shit ton of money, and then completing it. You don't really feel good about that. You feel good about spending money. You don't feel good about finishing the content necessarily. So that's why, like, I know some people, like, they don't have time to like finish Faction Wars or whatever. And Faction Wars is one of the first big hard things you have to do in this game, besides like maybe Spider 20 as a free to play, for example. And I know a lot of people, they pay for Faction Wars to be done by somebody that has more time or more experience to play Faction Wars. But if you have the effort to finish Faction Wars by yourself, when you know that it's so insanely difficult sometimes, you feel so good about your achievement, you feel so good about Lydia. And I think that's what Plarium does really good here, is that they do set up really good difficulty checkpoints throughout the game where you can feel good about your progression. This is the same with Doom Tower. Scarab King's a big pain in the butt. Bombo is a big pain in the butt. I mean, a lot of these Doom Tower bosses, they're massive pains in the butt when you have no roster. When you have an insane roster, they're nothing. But when you have no roster as a free to play and you're trying to complete the hardest difficulty challenges in the game, but when you do it, it feels the best. So I feel like that's probably one of the best and most healthy ways of playing this game, as opposed to just spending money and then tackling the content and then just obliterating the content. You don't necessarily feel best, like super great about it. You feel good about spending money, but not about the content itself.
If you're playing games that they don't require you to spend money in order to be number one, they require time, okay? And you're never going to be number one if you're not investing the time. It's as simple as that. It's just a different law, a different currency. Time versus money, okay? So if you're playing PUBG Mobile, I've heard people saying, Skratch, you don't need to spend money to be number one. Hell no, but you need to spend time. So if you don't have time, you're not going to be number one. So just accept that you're going to be a casual player. I accepted that I'm not going to be the top dog in the game. And hell, I don't want to be the top dog. I don't even want to get close to the top dog. You know why? Because a top dog in Raid Shadow Legends needs to spend 10, 20, 30, 40, 50k dollars a month to maintain the title of one of the top dogs. We have so many Krakens in this game that our minds cannot comprehend the level of what
Yeah.
sort of amounts they're spending, guys.
That's
Okay,
right.
let's just be honest.
Start from earlier this year. I just feel like I had
Yeah, just to quickly drop into that, you would be surprised with the amount of players out there who find the amount that you spent, the maximum amount you spent in a month, they would spend it in a day just because they had the free time to play around and maybe saw a pack was worth it, pulled some voids or something. They wanted to try. There was a summoning event. They wanted to max it out just because there's people out there who
have
do
to
this.
spend, not to progress, but I have to spend just to keep up.
So I did want to point this out. This is the game now. This is the game right now. You do not spend to progress. You spend to keep up. Is it worth for us to spend and keep up? No, because this race is never going to end, guys, okay? This is a rat race that will never end. You might think, okay, I'm going to get Marichka and Taras. That's it. I'm sorted. I don't need nothing else. After, they're going to bring a new champion that will counter Marichka and Taras. And guess what? You're going to want to get a champion. After, they're going to bring a new gear set with a Forge Pass. You're going to want to get that new set.
You know, Skratch knows. He knows this, what's happening here. So, you know, with Macchan, so the story is that Macchan spent so much money trying to get Taras and Marichka. He doesn't even have Harima, and Harima is non-void legendary. I believe he only has one Duchess as well, and this is the guy that spends, you know, probably 6 digits into the game by now for his lifetime in the game, and he doesn't have some of these key champions in the game. I mean, his gear is insane. He has obviously insane blessings and empowerments on certain champions, but not the current meta champions. So for a player like this, how much money do you have to throw into the pit to even acquire one of these champions, let alone fully empower them and then build the blessings for them and so forth? So for him, it is a rat race that will not end, and he's already well behind the current point where a lot of the top players are at. So
Then they're going to introduce a new dungeon that drops new gear sets. You're going to get that too because that's meta. You're going to want to get the Awakening. You're going to want to get a Soul. You're going to want to get 4 more copies of that champion to empower him to +4. And this will never end, okay? Whenever you think that you're done, you're not. You're just starting again.
Yeah, that's the problem with a lot of people. But what I do say when I hear players saying that they're compelled to spend and all that, just don't. Why would you spend in this game? This is not. You're not.
And to basically piggyback off what Coldbrew is saying, when he's saying that people don't comprehend how much money people are actually spending, I think we have a self projection kind of thing on how much people actually spend. So like in your eyes, maybe spending $100 on a game is reasonable in a month, but when you see somebody spending $100 in a game in a day, that's very unreasonable. But maybe to somebody else that is very reasonable. So we don't really know what the actual spending is of some of these people. We know that it's going to be much more than what we are willing to spend, and we probably see it as being a little bit excessive. With that being said, it's like, for me personally as a free-to-play player, so I'm going to throw my 2 cents in here and basically say, as a free-to-play player, you have your parameters already set. You cannot spend money. That's 100%. You know, that's your barrier. You cannot spend money. If you become a spender, you have no parameter. Like, you have no boundary to how much you spend. You could have a bad day at work, come home, have a couple drinks, pull some shards, get really unlucky, and say, okay, F it. I'm going to swipe the credit card, pay $500 for this pack or a couple packs, pull my shards, and try to get something good. You really have no boundary when you're a spender. There is no limit to what you can spend as long as you have money or a credit card. You don't even have money. You could have just a credit card. But as a free-to-play, you have a set boundary. You cannot break that. If you break that, you're no longer free-to-play, and then you go down the rabbit hole that Skratch is talking about. So, you know, do you need to spend in this game? My personal opinion is you definitely don't. You can get lots of enjoyment out of this game without spending any money. And I feel like when you spend money in this game, the enjoyment you get is actually a little bit fleeting, because you can get something really nice, but then it's going to be, you know, obviously very periodic, that it's just going to be a short-term kind of boost, and then it's going to be, okay, I need to go on, move on. Now you reached a new high. How can you reach that high again without further spending money in the future? That's kind of what I'm thinking right now.
Playing Pokemon, you're not trying to collect all of them. You'll never collect all the heroes in the game. There's not one person in the game right now that has every single champion in the game. Not a single person out there. Just because it's just out of the mythicals, and there's no bloody chance that you'd be able to get them. Even if you manage to have everything else before that, the mythicals now basically made your account a not 100% completed account. So it's a never-ending thing to chase to complete your account or make the account the strongest one.
Yeah,
Because then you'll
for
say,
sure.
oh, you don't have them all at +4. Oh, you don't have them all at +6 awakening. So there's no
That's
point.
how these
There's no
gacha
point.
games work. That's how the gaming industry is in 2023. So that's the reality, okay? And I feel like a lot of people are always in the position where I'm gonna quit. That's it. I'm gonna quit because that's gonna stop me from spending money. And no, you're actually a fool if you think that this will save you money, because you know what you're gonna do? You're gonna stop playing this game and you're gonna move over to the next one. Now in this game, at least you were somewhere in the middle or end game. You're gonna go and start a new game that will get you into it the exact same way Raid Shadow Legends did. And this is the biggest lesson I want to point out right here. Now, I've seen so many big whales Krakens quitting the game, and guess what? Either 2-3 weeks later they say, oh, I want to come back to the game, I don't know what to do, or I started playing this game, Skratch. You wanna cover it? It's an awesome game. It's very similar with Raid. I just dropped 20k in this game already.
I think that's really funny. And he makes a good point that your spending habits will probably follow you into another game. Because like I was saying earlier, once you reach a threshold of your playing level, you're accustomed to a certain level of play, it's very hard for you to come down to spending nothing and working at that level again. So that's why I feel like once you're a spender, you're going to probably be always a spender unless the game specifically offers something significantly different, maybe a completely different game that doesn't require you to spend at all. Maybe it's buy the PC game only and that's it. No microtransactions or whatever. You progress at the same rate as everybody else based on time committed to the game. So yeah, it's actually, it's true what he's saying, right?
So this will never make you save money. What you need to understand is that people are playing at different levels. You need to understand your place on the ladder, okay? I know I cannot afford to spend 10k, and my god, even if I would afford to spend 10k, I could do a million things better than spend 10k in a weekend on Raid Shadow Legends. So
yeah,
the
Skratch,
sooner
you could
you
spend that to come
understand
over
that
to
quitting
Cyprus.
the game is
We'll go out, have drinks, have
not
food.
what makes you save money. What
We'll
makes
be
you save
crazy.
money is understanding that you do not need to constantly spend in these genres of games, because it's a rat race that will never end, regardless.
It's actually really interesting because so far, like Coldbrew and Skratch have been basically talking as if they're advocating to not spend. It's actually very interesting. I think they have a very healthy sense of their own personal spending in this game and how it affects their decisions overall. I think I don't know, like what they're saying is what they actually practice in real life, but what they're saying is actually very healthy sounding like reasoning for spending in this game for sure.
If the title is Raid Shadow Legends, Infinite Magic Raid, or Magic Dragons, or Awaken Chaos Era, they're all the same cup of tea.
So when the biggest Kraken on YouTube out of Raid, right? Like he mentions, there's bigger spenders, of course, out there in the game.
Yeah.
But when someone who's dropping that much money on a long-term basis over the course of years, when they say, listen to what he said here, right? He said, I don't spend money anymore to progress. I spend money to keep up. I want to make a larger point on this, but I don't want to hijack the entire reaction here. So let's keep going.
Because I want to compete in arena, I'm not even like looking for finish in #1 because it's not gonna happen.
Like look at #1, +4, +4, +4, +3, 6.
So when you guys look at like obviously if you guys are not used to looking at the top of platinum, when you guys look at it like +4 champions fully awakened, we're talking like $2,000 for one void legendary, maybe. So each one of those +4s, you could probably on average guess that each one probably costs $10,000. And to 6-star bless them, it probably costs another $2,000. So that would be my rough guess. So that team at the top with the +3 Marichka, +4 Duchess, +4 Taras, +4 Ultimate Death Knight, all 6-star fully blessed, that could be a $50,000 team. If you get unlucky, or if you even average. You don't necessarily need to be unlucky to pay that much for those champions, right? Because when people do like these 10x events for the big shard, the big void, pulls and all those big shard events, you're spending easily $1,000, $2,000 for those, especially if the meta champions are involved, right?
star on everything. Do you want to know how much it costs you to get something like that? Do you think $100K will get you that? You gotta be extremely lucky to get that with
That is
100.
bloody insane. Just
So Skratch is saying that team is $100,000. And you know what? If you're unlucky, it could be $100,000. Like I'm saying $2,000 for one copy. Before that's one copy, that's plus one, and then another 2,000 for the next one, another 2,000 for the next one, and that's probably, you know, that's probably average to low end. So this team to me on the low end is $50,000.
just looking at the awakenings and the plus fours and knowing that Macchan has spent so much and he doesn't have the couple, he doesn't have obviously the awakening.
Yeah, so that's the problem with Macchan, is that he doesn't have even one copy of Marichka or Terrace. And I believe he only has one copy of Duchess.
He doesn't have obviously the awakenings for them, doesn't even have the copies for them. Just understand that maybe an average every 10x you need to pull like 600 to 900 voids, maybe to actually get the void offered through the 10x.
Okay,
and that is like 2,000 easy.
It's just not gonna happen. I don't have these champions.
And you see, that's what you get hooked on. I don't have these champions. I need these champions. I was the fool who was like, I want Hegemon. I need Hegemon. I need Hegemon. Hell, I don't need Hegemon. Right now, I need Yumeko. Do I really need her? I don't. You know what? Am I going to get number one if I get Yumeko? No. Next to that Yumeko, I need 4 more Yumekos. Then I need to purchase all the speed gear and everything else to make sure she's 560 speed. She's 6-star awakened, so purchase all the souls. And is just Yumeko enough? Nah. And I accepted this long time ago. I don't need her. I would love to get her. But she's not going to do anything for me. He thinks that if he gets Marichka and Taras, it's going to change something for him. He thinks he's going to do top 20 again of Arena. No. He needs awakening for them. Then he needs empowerment for them, etc., etc., etc.
A really sad part. I have to spend close to $1,000 a month just to stay in top 20. And I just don't want to do that anymore. And if you guys watch my old Sharpo videos, I just had insanely bad luck.
So that's I'm not flaming him, by the way, because I just realized it sounded a bit like...
Just to interrupt a little bit. If you've ever seen players like Macchan or Boomer or Murder Inc., when they ever did summoning videos, there was a complete I want to say they were just not interested in anything other than the legendary that was in their heads to try and get it. If you've ever seen their summoning videos, they wouldn't get excited anymore about it because of how much.
That's a good point. When you spend so much money in this game, you're totally desensitized to a lot of the good feeling legendaries, like good feelings that you can acquire in this game. So for them, they're very focused on what they need, and they don't need anything else. So it really takes away a lot of the joy in this game when you are such a big spender and you're so focused on one aspect of the game. There's lots to this game. Raid is a very deep game, so yeah, it's definitely, like, my advice would be just find something that you can enjoy and then work towards it. And once you achieve the goal, it actually feels really good. Then you can move on and do something else.
Much money they would be spending on the game and how that was reflected during their pulls. And it wasn't about, oh, I don't want to do reactions when summoning shards. It's because they honestly had no reaction when they were getting a legendary anymore, because they had a legendary dozens of times, literally dozens of times, but not the one they were looking for.
He's doing that, he's not doing that. No, the point is that any of us doing that is just pointless, okay? And how he mentioned, he spent thousands of dollars on shards recently and he got nothing. So that's bringing me back to my point. But yes, if you are spending, you can pretty much get out of it with a fat leap, nothing else. You know?
Like, ever since these two were released, I spent a lot of money. And, well, not that much compared to back in, let's say, 2020 or 2021, but I still spent a lot. I probably pulled roughly 700 to 800 void shards after these two were released, and mostly during their 10x.
So let me just 700-800 void shards.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
Around $3 at a regular price for void
shards. To be honest, not a lot for actually trying to hunt for that specific champion, but it's a lot in terms of money.
$2.50 on very good deals, right? So that's a lot of money. And you know what? If you're going in the game, the first thing that you're going to understand is that when you have a
700 void shards, guys. Let's think about that for a second here. Like, if you're free to play, you're probably getting, if you're doing double chest, ultra nightmare, you're probably getting about 300, maybe one a day, so about 350 a year. So he's basically pulling, like, yeah, some of these guys are pulling 2 years worth of void shards in like one session. So yeah, that's the level we're at.
Summon champions are rubbish. 0.5% chance to get a legendary. Then the mercy system kicks in at 200 plus shards. Do you know how many times I opened void shards in this game and I went over 200 with no legendary? is just crazy. So 700-800 volt
insane.
shards are nothing. Okay, let me just point that out.
Also spent $2,000 a month. Now, the big difference is, and I've said this so many times here on the channel, and I feel like it's important to always say this, and I don't mean to like, well,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
mean this to be
Ash
taken
does
the
it
wrong
mostly
way,
for the
but
content
I
of
need to be
summoning
clear
shards,
here with you
reacting
guys.
to that.
I would not spend, well, I probably would spend around 1/10 or so, 10% of what I spend
Yeah.
on this game if I wasn't making content.
Yeah, so then here's the thing, right? So these guys, they're big content creators. They spend a lot of money in the game. They obviously get back some of that money from obviously tax write-offs or whatever. They need to make content on the game. They make money off the videos from the content that they produce. So they're investing into their channel, into the game as well. But if they were not, they would not spend that much money. So that's why I feel like these guys actually have a very healthy way of viewing the spending in this game for themselves. So I feel like they're a little bit more detached. Whereas with Macchan, he's probably so focused on his goals that the money becomes not even money anymore. It's kind of loses its value, right? It's similar to how people handle themselves inside of a casino. Inside of a casino, the casino tries their best to kind of like, it takes the money part away from the actual money. So they give you chips. They don't give you money. You have chips now. It's kind of more of a play thing. You no longer view it as money. A lot of times when you have a big stack of chips, you don't even view it as a stack of chips. I mean, you don't even view it as a stack of money. You just view it as a stack of chips, a stack of plastic. So that's one way that they kind of like desensitize you to spending that. So in this case, I feel like Ash, Coldbrew, Skratch, they're still able to keep the value of money in a healthy way, a healthy outlook, intact in their minds. But I feel like somebody like Macchan, who's so invested in the game, into achieving basically the best they can be in PvP, they lose value. They lose sight of what the value of money actually means. When you start spending $2,000 a month, you start losing sense of what $2,000 a month can actually do. Sometimes that's rent for somebody. Sometimes that's a car. Sometimes these are big payments for things, right? You start losing sense for that, because once you start attaching yourself to what that money can actually do in real life, how can you justify spending that money to do what you do in a game? Unless you can totally afford it, then that's totally different. Then we're not even talking about the same thing anymore. So.
And I wasn't getting sponsorship.
If I wasn't a content creator for Raid, getting that pack that we get every week for being a tier 3 content creator, which is when you have about 8,000 subs on YouTube and certain amount of views per week, that pack alone per month, it's valued at about $200, I'm gonna say. Maybe less so now because I have so many 5-star chickens that those have zero value for me. It's just the energy and gems that we get in the books. I could value them maybe $150 or so. So that keeps my account alive. So I don't need to spend. And the test server access makes me now be able to build some stuff when we have the access. If I want to make a video on a specific champion that is, maybe I want to showcase something really cool that I don't want to spend the money on my main account. So things are much easier now for me to make content compared to at the start when I was slowly building my account. I wanted to showcase something very, very, very specific, like the Blender team, stuff like that. I was building my account still. And yeah,
and all of that stuff, not by player, I'm not sponsored by player or anything like that. I'm talking about like, my last shard opening video, I had a sponsorship in there, right? That pays for all those shards and more. I wouldn't be making that content unless it was part of my business strategy. You know what I'm saying?
And I wanted to point this out as well, because Ash is making a very good point here. If I wouldn't make content on this game, I wouldn't spend much money at all, actually. Like, I started playing this game free to play for the very first 3 months. Yeah. And I actually started spending because I got into making content on it.
I remember buying my first pack to celebrate 300 subscribers on YouTube. I bought my first.
All right. And for me, since I'm the newest content creator, I'm definitely not going to change my strategy for free to play. I'm not going to spend any money in this game, and I'm just going to show what I can do without spending any money. That's my hard restriction on this game, is not to spend money. I mean, and it's a guiding boundary for me. And I think it makes the game easy when you know that you cannot spend, and you know that the resources you have in your account, that's it. If you run out, you're going to have to wait. You're going to have to do something else. So, yeah.
First pack, which was €30. And I was feeling a sense of guilt. Because at the time I had my main job and I was getting paid like €1,000 per month. And spending.
See, that sense of guilt, that first sense of guilt is when you start feeling the loss of that value, of that money, that time. First, you start associating the time it takes you to acquire that money. So let's say Coldbrew he said it spent $200. So he spent $200. Let's say he makes like $50 an hour at his old job. He had to spend 4 hours of his life to create that $200 of value. Now he feels guilty that he just spent that 4 hours of his life working for pixels in a game. So that's his first, like the first thread that you pull from everything. So like I said, I feel like these guys have reattached, or at least came back down to earth in terms of attaching real value to money, which is obviously your own time. But some people, a lot of people in this game, especially like with the gambling addiction, and then this lines up with people in the casinos and all that stuff, once they pull that thread, they start losing the sense of value with money. And that's when it gets easier and easier for them to spend. They no longer attach it to hours worked or what it can buy or what it can do for you. It's just a tool. Money becomes a tool to achieve what you need to achieve. In this case, you want to be best in PvP. It's a tool to achieve PvP greatness or whatever.
30 euro, 30 out of 1,000, where I remember 400 was my rent. I had 250 on fuel. After everything in a month, I would have maybe 100 euro left as disposable income. And I was a professional, but in Cyprus our salaries are low, especially if you're just starting out. And yeah, spending that amount of money, I felt so guilty, especially when I was getting nothing back from YouTube at the time. And I didn't even consider it as an investment. It was just like a celebration for me. Like when you're going out for your birthday, that kind of thing. That's how it felt spending $30, which right now, for me, is just buying another pack. I got desensitized so much.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what he's saying here.
Which is kind of bad if I think about it, more and more. But I'm trying to regulate it, and I haven't spent on Raid. Although, if I'm being honest, I've been playing Watcher of Realms and building another channel for that one. And I've been spending on that, but I've stopped over there as well since I've entered their content creator program, and I'll slowly be getting rewards over there. So now and I have test server access as well now. So again, I don't have that.
Sounds pretty good for him.
An incentive spending anymore on that game. Although I haven't spent not even a tenth.
That's what kind of like hooked me on spending more than I was usually doing. I started streaming, and they started getting me with the $5 packs for 5 ancients 3-4 years ago. And small prices like this, and $5, $10, $15, $20, they add up to 2K. And you're gonna be like, my God, I actually spend that much money. I'm an idiot. You can't believe it. But if I wouldn't do content, I would definitely not spend almost nothing on this game. Yes, I would play it, I would enjoy it as free to play, low spender, or whatever, and that's it. I don't want to compete to be number one, because I accept that my wallet and my mentality will just not allow me to be number one for this, because my mentality will stop me to spend tens of thousands of dollars every month on the game.
I don't think you could pay thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in this game and still feel like it's rigged against you, kind of like Macchan does. And I'm not saying he's saying that. I'm just saying that still feel like you're having bad luck and you're a have-not. If you're spending, over the course of the years, $100,000 on Raid Shadow Legends, right? If you're spending $100,000 on Raid Shadow Legends and you still don't have a bunch of the key meta champions because of RNG, it should show everybody out there that spending money on this game, sure, you can, you can progress a little bit more, right? You can, right? And I'm not going to tell anybody not to spend a few dollars here or there or whatever on this game, right? It's your money. Do what you want with it, right? I'm not here to have some big boycott or anything like that. But I've said it so many times, and I feel like I need to make videos like this, and this is a perfect video to react to, is it doesn't matter. There is no end of the tunnel.
Yeah, so that's exactly the same as what Skratch was saying. There's no end to the tunnel. The spending can be limitless. Find your limit, play within it, and you'll be a lot happier doing it that way, instead of just kind of like getting some bad RNG after a long stretch of bad RNG and then just kind of quitting. I feel like that's probably the biggest takeaway here for someone in Macchan's position.
There's nothing that we're aiming for. What's going to happen is you're going to get comfortable spending $10, $20, $100, $1,000 a month. And then it's just going to get worse. It's just going to get more expensive. This dude spent $100,000 on Raid Shadow Legends, give or take. And he still feels like he's a have-not and that he's nowhere near where he needs to be.
If intersecting this point, if you want to ever see my face feeling guilty about spending, try and find my video on my YouTube channel where I got CP from Void Shards. It was me. I spent in a single day, I think I spent $300 in a single day on the game. I bought almost every pack that was on the shop during a 10x on CP, where I had to hit pity, exactly pity, and on the pity I got CP. But I felt the joy, and I totally forgot about it the second after. But my God, I remember myself, the guilt of spending clicking the button, knowing that I've just spent another 50, another 50, another 50, buying the pack that I think was $50 for just a handful of void shards, chasing the CP.
Wow.
And I was lucky and got her, but so many more I know haven't got her. I know a person that quit the game, big whale, quit the game because every time there was a void pack, he would buy it. Every time he would summon hoping for a CP, the game would not give it to him, and that led him to quitting. But who won in the end? Clarion, because they got out of that one player, they got thousands upon thousands of dollars.
So it's true. The number one lesson in life is like, the more you have, the more you want, right? Like, look at billionaires. They never have enough, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same in the game. But the only difference here in the game is that they're constantly adding you new carrots to follow, you know? Another new carrot, another new carrot. So yes, you're going to end up feeling like you're a no-have after you spent all that money, which is just crazy, right?
So actually, I feel like after all these inputs from all these different content creators, there's actually so much awesome comments and insight into actually Raid in general that we could go on forever with this video. And I feel like if somebody else were to do another reaction to this, it'd just be more and more insightful. I think everyone has a different experience. I feel like for me personally, as a free-to-play, I hope I provided some extra or additional kind of perspective on how I view things. I think these guys are really in tune with, like I said, I was talking a lot about how the value of money and how Plarium, obviously, they are very good at setting price points in this game for us to feel good about spending money, about how certain things are priced. Like $25 for a Sacred Shard is ridiculous, but once it's $7, it's an incredible deal. And they price point that in our minds, right? So I do feel like these guys, they've offered some incredible insight, and obviously not all of them are, like kind of whale mentality. Is actually very free to play, low spender friendly. So they're advocating that spending money in this game, there is no end. But if you want to spend within your means, feel good about the spending, enjoy the ride, find something you enjoy, achieve it, and then move on to something else that you enjoy, and then try to achieve that as well. This game has so much content in it, there's no reason to rush through it. And that's kind of how I feel as a free-to-play player. When you pay money to progress, what are you progressing for? Why do you want to finish the game quicker? Are you looking to finish to jump to another game? That's kind of like what I like my mentality about it. But Plarium's doing a really good job at increasing the roadmap for the game, increasing the runway for getting money from players. They're just super professional in this space for them, and that's why they're like the leaders, right? For making top revenue from this game. I'm not going to dive in too much further into this, but basically, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm not going to be doing too many of these kind of reaction videos, but I hope I provided some different insight into everything. I want to thank all these content creators: Ash, Coldbrew, Skratch, and of course Macchan, Macchan. I don't mean any disrespect in anything I said, and I just want to say that it's really fun just to watch this. I kind of watched this for the first time. I only watched the first couple of minutes, but after watching this for a little bit longer, I realized that a lot of these guys are they echo the same mentality as me, even as a free-to-play. And obviously these guys have spent a ton of money in the game, so they have a very wide range of perspective as well. So anyways, let me know in the comments below what you guys actually think. And yeah, have a good one. I'll see you guys later.